Hey Bat fans, Luke here. First off, I want to start off by wishing everyone in the States a happy 4th of July. May you have a fun and safe-filled day as we celebrate our nation's independence. And today definitely did get started off on a really, controversial foot with the release of Batman 50. I did read it. This is the one time I went digital. My books have not come in yet, and due to the holiday, I'm anticipating it probably not getting here Friday or Saturday, maybe Monday. And I have done not to pat myself on the back, a really good job of avoiding spoilers thus far, so I have, but I think it'll be kind of hard to resist if we're going into like a Monday or Tuesday until I'll be able to read it. So I broke down, went on DC's app, got the digital version, and read it. And I'm kind of glad I don't have my books right now, or at least probably not until probably at least Saturday, because this one I gotta read a couple more times, and I gotta let things stew a little bit, because if I went straight off the cuff, I'll probably say some things that maybe upon further reflection might mean my analysis might change a little bit, but I could tell you without going into it, I'll just say that my thoughts will come at some point when I get my books. I'm just glad I got a couple more maybe days to kind of stew on a little bit. But I definitely did want to get a video out today on the 4th of July. And one kind of want to bring on a happier note, sort of. Even this one's kind of not really on a happier note. This is definitely a good book, but one that kind of brings up some dark material in a sense, as far as what's actually seen in the book, as well as some of the concepts derived. And this is one, again, the Bat classics. So this one's Batman Death and the Maidens, written by Greg Rucka. Greg Rucka should not be a stranger to anyone's mind if you've been reading Batman, his great run in Detective Comics, in addition to Wonder Woman, older pre-New 52, I guess, best way to call it, as well as the rebirth he did with Liam Sharp and Nicola Scott. Great writer. And Klaus Janson, obviously, that name should also ring a bell as well as far as Batman goes. And this one is predominantly a Ra's al Ghul story. And if you're familiar with the book, and I should have brought it with me, The Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, that's Grant Morrison book. If you look at your timeline, this is one that kind of put right after Batman and Son. This one kind of explains the predicament Ra's was in going into that book. And this is the case where what is happening is Ra's is dying. And he's dying because Batman is finding all these Lazarus pits and destroying them so Ra's can't use it. Ra's al Ghul, in many eyes, seen as probably Batman's most formidable foe. And I agree with that. Some might say the Joker. Maybe. Bane might even be maybe even more of a better answer. Man, that might be a video in itself, Batman's greatest foes. But definitely Ra's should be up there, right around the ranking, maybe Bane, in that what he can do. Obviously, he's eternal. He can die, he can come right back to life through the use of the Lazarus Pit. You got the League of Assassins / League of Shadows, whatever, have that at his disposal, and he's very intelligent too. And if you look at Ra's, he's one of those ones where what he believes in concept, the reasons why he does what he does, in concept, isn't necessarily bad. It's kind of like, I forget the Dan Brown, I think, the one who wrote like the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. If you read his most recent book, Inferno, it deals with like overpopulation. And while the villain is clearly wrong, the reasons behind the actions, you can kind of see where they're kind of coming from. The same thing with Ra's. He thinks the world is beyond safe, so something needs to be done. And while the world might not be beyond saving, there's definitely things we can do to kind of improve the predicament we are in. But it's his means that are to the extreme, which makes him kind of the villain that he is. And that kind of gets kind of explored a little bit in this one. And again, is that he's dying and is mainly come down to Batman taking care of all the Lazarus pits, so he can't rejuvenate himself. So basically what happens is Batman, or Ra's comes to Batman. And to be honest, Batman is not really the central figure in this book. This is primarily a Ra's story, and it deals with Talia and this character named Nyssa. But Batman does have a role in this, and there is a part of the story that it explored, which was pretty interesting. Ra's comes to Batman with a proposal. I'm going to see if I can and it's one that, Ra's just pops up in the Batcave, which we've seen a lot of, that's a leap, so this is pre-New 52, so, be that as it may. So, basically what it comes down to, Ra's comes to Batman, and we see here in the Batcave. And he comes in with a proposal. He says, hey, I'm dying, whatnot, I need to get to a Lazarus pit. If you kind of stop, give me a Lazarus pit, I will give you something. And it's this potion, that if Batman drinks the potion, he's able to talk to the dead. In particular, he's able to talk to his parents. And spoiler on this and whatnot, this is kind of an older book, so it kind of is what it is. Batman does lament to the deal. And he speaks with his parents, primarily more with his mother. Thomas does come at the very end of the interaction with Bruce and his parents in this vision or whatever it may be. Insert, descriptive word there, whatever you want to call it. Thomas does come at the end, but basically what it comes down to is that Bruce learns through his parents that they're kind of disappointed in the path that he chose. In that, not that he's a bad person, but he's disappointed. They're disappointed with the Batman persona that he chose to. Again, the means, or the ways, the means, that's what it meant. The means behind why he chose the Batman character, what he's trying to do, makes sense. But it's how he's going about it. His mother brings up the good point about, hey, you're an intelligent person, you're smart, you could be a doctor, you got resources, you got money, you should go to help Gotham through that means. And that basically kind of sums it up there. And he does kind of come back when the story comes kind of full circle at the end. But that's primarily Batman's part. But again, a lot of this is dealing with Ra's al Ghul. And Ra's al Ghul interacts with this person. Obviously, Talia comes up. And this is Talia where I kind of would mark this as kind of like the turning point in the Talia character. Especially if you go back and look at the review I did for Tales of the Demon. You see a lot more of a passive Talia. One that we would not see if you read Batman Incorporated, whatnot. A lot more aggressive Talia. Talia back then, she was a lot more of a submissive character, and not to sound negative anyway, but it's just kind of what comes out to me as you're kind of reading her, back in the day. She's very a passive, submissive person who's in love with Batman. And this book definitely marks, I think, the turning point as we see the Talia as we know her as of now. Greg Rucka definitely makes that transition to the character. And it's all due to this person who's also is included in the story, which is Nyssa. And as you're reading through the story, probably about the first third of the book, you're going to be kind of duped into believing that Nyssa, this daughter of a Jewish immigrant, who, I'll hold off that part in a minute, you're led to believe this was a love interest of Ra's al Ghul, who eventually left Ra's circa, was it 19 something? I can't remember. I forget the date. It was right around World War II, maybe a little bit short of. Definitely short of World War II, as you find out why. But you're led to believe initially that this was a love interest. Someone who joined Ra's as he kind of pillaged areas through the world, in the 1700s-ish, and in order to justify his ends. But we end up finding out, in a twist a little bit halfway through, that this is not actually a love interest. This is one of his daughters. This is Talia's sister, through obviously another woman. And this person, which we find out, this is obviously Raish's daughter, who we actually find out is that she kind of went undercover to get to Raish because of what Raish just basically kicked her mother to the curb and kind of left her out in the dust, even though she was kind of believing that Raish would always come back to her. It never really happened. But again, the thing that also Greg Rucka kind of infuses into the story is that this Nissa character is a Jewish immigrant, and then which kind of gets bad word, incorporated into the events of World War II, which ultimately really pushed her over to the edge. Not only what he's done to his mother, to her mother. Now what has happened is that she's kind of put into this death camp in Nazi Germany when all of her siblings, or her children are dying, all of her family members are dying at the hands of the Nazis, and Raish is there and could have prevented it, but he doesn't, and he goes into kind of like we've seen in Batman Begins, where he mentions Gotham's got to be purged. Before it was just straight biological weapons, whatnot. Then we'll try another way. Was getting rid of the rich elite, whatnot. This was another way. Raish, while he believes that the Nazis clearly weren't right, but it was their means to the end, which ultimately would facilitate his means, that he kind of led him to not act. So that pushed this Nissa character even further to the edge, and her plot to get back at Raish now is to get back at him through Talia. Through she befriends early in the book and ultimately pushes her in a really clever way, and to which I don't really want to spoil. It was brutal how she kind of, just put it this way, she brainwashes Talia through. It means that incorporated Lazarus Pit, which was really interesting. And again, kind of comes full circle at the end, where Batman is ultimately trying to prevent this Nissa character from achieving her end, but also now kind of leads to the end of the tie with Talia and her beloved Batman, into this person as we now know Talia as we see her, a lot more dominant, aggressive, and while she may still love her beloved, sort of in a way have feelings for him, there's definitely a clear turning point into her ultimate alliance and feelings that may kind of diminish the allure of Batman in her eyes, whatnot. And it kind of leads into a ending, which, again, kind of sets things up for that Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul story done by Grant Morrison. Overall, a very good story. The art in this by Claude Janson. It has moments where it's very good. It's Claude Janson, but then you kind of see some panels where I think the attention to detail, if I look at the face, my camera might not pick it up, but some of the detail kind of gets missed in this. You see what happens with Nissa and Talia here into this quote-unquote Lazarus Pit, which was just, it was rough. You can definitely see why Talia is the way she is after this. But yeah, the art in this, it's good. The colors are great. I forget the colorist. Should check. Colorist Steve Buccellato. And overall, great art. Accentuates the story. But every once in a while, I think the art in some panels, not necessarily long extended periods of time, sometimes the panels where you would think you get a little bit more detail and flushness, attention to detail and whatnot, you kind of miss it a little bit. But definitely Janson doing a great job on the art. Overall, this was a fun story. Definitely if you're a Ra's fan, this book is for you. There's only really one thing that's really kind of strikes me as Batman, and I'll I kind of flipped through, and I don't really want to go through it again. Batman smacks his mother. And granted, it might be hallucination or vision and whatnot. That's one thing which I just don't see Batman ever doing. Smack. That one I kind of wondered. But take that aside, this was a very good story. There's some gut punches, and again, the whole thing with the Nazism, the way Talia is brainwashed. You're reading it. I'm not saying it's an emotional gut punch, but it's just like you feel it. You're just like, ugh. Especially again, what Brace does to his own family. If you look at it, at the end of the day, his daughter and her children, those are his grandchildren, and he just basically turned a blind eye to them being mercilessly killed and whatnot. And it's just, it was rough. You kind of get the motivation behind this, and then obviously what Talia goes through, it's rough too. So overall, I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. This one with Death in the Maidens, it depends on who you talk to. Some people like it, some people hate it, and I can understand why people hate it. Maybe more with the subject matter and what's kind of explored in it. The whole thing with the vision of Batman and his parents, I can see it. I definitely could see Batman kind of going down that road with this offer that Ra's is giving him. So everyone makes sense. Again, it's a great segue into the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. If you read Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul and you didn't read this, read this. It kind of puts things into perspective. So anyway, again, kind of an odd video to choose and book to talk about, especially after Batman 50. But that one, again, I will do it. I just don't know when. That one, I gotta reflect, because I have a feeling it's going to be some backlash on that one. To say the least. Not only that, it was spoiled, which is another point of conversation. So anyway, 4.5 out of 5 for Batman Death in the Maidens. Definitely highly recommended. Just kind of go into it knowing what you're going to be getting into, and go from there. Quick read too. I know this is the paperback. I know they just recently released the deluxe hardcover. $20. I thought it was about the same for the hardcover, $20.25. So definitely one that you should be able to get your hands on. So anyway, hit me up in the comments below what you thought about Batman Death in the Maidens. We'll bat chat and go from there. So until next video, whatever it may be, take care.